For as long as I can remember, I've always loved watching TV. My earliest memory is of me and my mom watching the Food Network learning how to make cheesecake from Alton Brown. Granted, I was only 2 at the time, so it's not like I could follow along, but still, even at a young age, I found us casually having a window into thousands of different programs with just the click of a button to be fascinating. As a kid, I would watch everything. Well, except for the news. The news is boring. Everything else, though, cooking shows, cartoons, game shows, it was like being able to explore a whole new world whenever I wanted. It wasn't long before I stumbled across the realm of late night TV. It had everything: comedy, music, good conversation, even current events. A well-rounded style with a little something for everybody. The only real gripe I had was that as a kid, it's kind of hard to tell them apart. Similar show names, air times, hell, half of them are named Jimmy, and interestingly enough, they all had almost the exact same set. Same stage layout, same furniture, same old stark blue cityscape backdrop. Back then, I didn't think much of it. Now looking back on it, I can't help but wonder if there was some reason behind all those sets looking so similar, especially with their matching color schemes. Now that I'm older and have a little more knowledge on the subject, what better excuse than a final project to take a closer look as to why these shows have such a similar choice of color palette. Now, to properly analyze and compare the color choice of each program, I took the final season of 4 late night shows: Conan, Letterman, Craig Ferguson, and Jay Leno. Why these shows, you may ask? Mainly legacy. These shows and their hosts are often regarded as the best in the genre of all time. Side note, I didn't include Johnny Carson because the color capabilities the camera used back when his show was on the air are much different than those of his more modern counterparts, so it wasn't really a fair comparison. Anyways, I took the average of all the most common frames, ran them through a color palette extrapolator coded using ChatGPT-4, so that all I was left with was the most common colors that appeared throughout the whole show. Before you ask, yes, this took way longer than I was expecting, but what can I say, I got a little carried away. As you can see, the most common colors we are left with are some denomination between blue, brown, and black, with other cool tones sprinkled in between. After some further investigation, we can find that the black is most often coming from the respective host's suit or clothing, and the shadows. The brown is coming from the desk and flooring, and the blues are coming from the choice of backdrop. Now that we have the most common colors that appear, we must ask, why were these colors deliberately chosen by whoever designed the sets? Okay, to answer this, we're going to be looking at the potential reasons behind these color choices and the implications that these selections have on the audience. We can do this by using a variation of the subjective method of analyzing color outlined by Paul Lester in the book Visual Communication. By combining his premise of deriving personal meaning from colors by past experience with psychological research done over the course of the past 200 years or so, we can come up with some pretty concise conclusions when it comes to the motivations behind why these color palettes came out the way they did. Something that was pointed out to me was that this combination of colors might come off as masculine and that the data might be biased towards a male host. To see if the choice of color palette was as simple as preference based off of the host's gender, I went ahead and analyzed the color palettes of 2 more shows, this time with female hosts Lilly Singh and Taylor Tomlinson. Yes, this also took a very long time, but interestingly enough, their shows also had a color palette consistent with their male counterparts, albeit slightly on the brighter side, but it was still cool colors primarily consisting of blues, blacks, and reddish browns. So, with gender consideration out of the way, the meaning behind the color choice is more likely to fall on the colors themselves. Now, what do I mean by that? Going back as early as the 1800s, psychologists have been studying the effects of exposing humans to particular colors and the feelings and emotions associated with those colors. After over 200 years of research, we have definitive answers as to the emotions and responses that are triggered in our brains when we are exposed to specific colors. Using this research, we can make sound conclusions as to the feelings and emotions that the colors used in these sets naturally produce for the audience. For the sake of this part of the analysis, we're mainly going to be looking at the cool toned blues and violets present in the background of each set. We'll get to the other stuff a bit later. So, what is it that the colors blue and violet tell us? Well, according to multiple independent studies, exposure to the color blue is proven to elicit feelings of trustworthiness, loyalty, and an overall sense of calm. It is also proven to increase alertness and retain attention. Additionally, violet and the rest of the cool color spectrum are shown to also encourage feelings of calm and tranquility. With this in mind, it makes sense why set designers would be drawn to use this color palette for this type of program. The feeling these colors foster in the audience, combined with the intimate atmosphere of the set design, allow the viewer to feel like they have been welcomed into a home-like atmosphere that the showrunners have constructed for them. The vibrant, calming colors, the brown, cozy wood furniture, the well-dressed host in a dark suit, similar to how a photographer might set up a photograph to fit the tone of a subject or a shoot, the directors and the designers of these shows have done the same thing with their sets. Take this video for example. 6 photographers given the same subject, except they all have been given a different backstory as to who he is. One thinks he's a millionaire, another a fisherman, another an alcoholic, so on and so on. Funnily enough, despite having the same man in each of their photos, each of the photos portrayed the man in a different way. The photographers even going as far as to alter the environment around him to fit their idea of him and what he represented. Except this time, instead of 6 photographers trying to portray one man 6 different ways, we have 6 different shows trying to portray 6 different hosts in the same warm, welcoming, trustworthy environment. So naturally, it makes sense that they would all gravitate to creating the same type of atmosphere for what they're all trying to individually achieve. That way, when 10:30 rolls around and you flip on your TV, you aren't just tuning into a program. You're being welcomed into a world designed to make you feel right at home.